Alright, here we go. Highland Gaelic Ale. We got our kettle with 2 gallons of water in it, getting to 150 degrees. Everything's set up. Gotta move this thing over. Be about an hour before we use it, but let's get it in position. All our tools set out. Here's our grains for steeping, malts, 3.3 pounds of malt extract light, muttons, 2 pounds of muttons light. We got ½ ounce of Willamette, 4 fluff tablet, and Cascade, 3/4, and Chinook, 3/4. All right, let's go check the temperature. All right, checking the temperature. Let's see what we got. Looks like we're almost there. Got to get to 150 degrees. We're going to let it sit in here for about 30 minutes, and then we're going to sparge these grains. Almost there. I'm going to turn up the heat a little bit, I think. A little bit shy of 150. As I'm showing all this, I want to emphasize the fact that you have to keep everything sanitized. I cleaned everything earlier, sanitized it. As you can see, my carboy has a sanitized rag over top of it so nothing gets in it. This is the pre-chiller, and this is the kettle, which I'm about to check again for temperature to steep my grains. Okay, another check here. And I know it's hard to see, but we're in the kettle. And it looks like we've hit our mark at 150. Pretty close. Alright, here we go. We can get our grain bags here. I had to divide it into 3 because they're really big and my kettle is shallow. So, well, when you only have 2 gallons of water. So we're going to drop these babies in there. And we're going to let them steep in the grains. It's hard to see in there, but we're going to let them steep in here for about 30 minutes. Alright, we're here on the stove in the house. This is 1 gallon of just spring water we're going to use for our sparging. I didn't know much about steeping and sparging until I kind of looked it up online. The steeping is like putting a tea bag in the water and letting all that flavor come out of the grains. And then you take this water and you'll sparge it, and we'll get into that a little bit later. I can't emphasize enough being organized. I really like my vacuum sealer. I can keep my hops fresh. I also can scale and weigh them out to what I need, so I can be prepared, and there's no, weighing and stuff when I'm doing my wort. It's a lot easier this way. I just pitch them in and stir them up, and it comes out pretty good. Sometimes they come packaged in the right amounts. These 2 are, but at times I have to divide it up when I buy in bulk. So try to get yourself organized and have everything prepared before you start your wort. Thereby there won't be any problems. Another thing you need is make sure you print out your recipe, whether it's your own or whether you get it out of the book. It doesn't matter. Just make sure you have it with you so you know when to drop in the hops and everything else. So make sure is that you have a nice cold beer on tap or in a bottle, and give me a second and I'll pour this out. So when you're brewing, you're having a good time, not just working. So here we go. Nice maple wheat, smoked wheat, actually toasted maple wheat that I made earlier. I'm going to let it sit here for a little bit to get about 50 degrees. It tastes better, the aromas come out, and I'm going to brew some beer and wait my 30 minutes to finish my steeping and sparge this and get started on the boil. Alright, we're done with our steeping for 30 minutes, and now we're going to sparge. These are the grain bags. I'm going to go inside and get that water, and I'll show you how to do this. Alright, what we're going to do is just slowly pour this gallon of 150 degree water over our grains that we got in the strainer. Try to get the rest of that wort out of there. And this is called sparging. Been in the past, it's pretty effective. Just taking our time, letting it drain through. And then just continue. Tends to get more of the wort out of the bag, especially in the big bags like this. I want to get as much as I can to get the flavor. Remember, steeping and sparging, not so much get sugars out, but it's the flavor out of the grain. And we're almost there. And that's it. Okay, now we've turned our flame up. We're going to bring it to a boil, and we're going to add our dry extract and our liquid extract. As I said, I'm just letting this strain out a little bit. Still got a little bit coming out, but pretty much now this is part of my dog's food. They love the grains. So I'm going to feed a little bit to them, not the whole thing, or have a little problems. Just going to let that drain a little bit more. Alright, time to add the dry ingredients. Now, put the spoon right there, and we're going to add it in as it starts to come to a boil. 1 pound mutton fillet going in. Shake a little then. Try to keep it off the sides and get as much in there as possible. Try to shake a little in. And go ahead, stir it. I don't want clumps. A little on the side. I'm going to rake up there. Just going to stir it a little. Just to get the clumps out. Then we'll put a little more in. This is only 1 pound. It's probably not that big of a deal. You can pretty much pour this whole bag in there. When I get to the end, sometimes it clumps up. You notice this? Just squeeze it out. Shake it out. Look it in there. No big deal. I sanitized my hands before I did this. Just, even though it's a boil, probably don't need to worry about sanitizing a whole bunch. But, man, I'm really, really, really particular about it because I don't want an infection in my beer. Alright, second bag going in. As I said, I do a little bit at a time, even if it's only 1 pound, but usually you can pretty much get away with it with your wort. Got a little on the side there, I want to take care of that. Start stirring it in. Just so I don't see any clumps. I'm going to pour the rest of it in. I guess I did about half the bag. There we go. Try to get as much of it out as we can. The more you get out, the closer to your original gravity you're going to get. Alright. Alright, it's time to pour in the liquid malt extract. Sometimes this stuff is pretty syrupy and doesn't come out of can real well. What I did is kind of heat the can up a little bit to get this to come out. And once I get it all in there, I'll stir it up. Takes a little bit. I might even have to take a spoon a little bit still. Alright. Okay, it's time to add the hops, because right now what we have is called sweet wort. We're going to add these hops, the Chinook hops, 3/4 of an ounce, right now at the beginning of the boil. This is for bitterness, and it's to make our beer taste delicious. Now I'm using the pellet hops right now. You can use the leaf hops. I tend to find they get caught up in the strainer a lot more. I've noticed a real difference between whether or not I use the pellet hops or the sweet hops, the leaf hops in the wort. Seems to come out good either way. My first beer, Panama Base, I used the leaf hops. Took a while to get the wort through the strainer. All I'm doing is stirring it up. Now understand, when it boils like this, when you add the hops, you can have an overboil if you're not using a big keg like this, so you need to watch it. Alright. Now we're going to boil for around 50 minutes or so, and then I'm going to add in the second hops, more for flavor, and for aroma will be the last bit of hops, and that'll be the Cascade. So I'll see you in about 60 minutes. And of course, YouTube time, it's like instantaneous. And the glass is getting empty. I'm going to finish this up, pour myself another one, and wait the 50 minutes. See ya. I told you my dogs like these grains. Right, Tar? How about you, Ash? Like them grains? Yes, you do. It's all over your nose. Eat them up. Can't give them too much, but they love them. It's like dessert for them. Alright, we're about 10 minutes to the end of the boil. I'm going to go ahead and add, or almost 15 minutes to the end of the boil, I'm going to go ahead and add the Willamette hops. So they're going in. It's kind of hard to see. It's getting a little dark today. And we're going to go ahead and add the Warfluck tablet, which will clarify the beer a little bit. Not much though. It's an ale, so even if it is a little cloudy, it's all right. Okay. Alright, coming up on the last 5 minutes of the boil. This is my Cascade hops. They got a nice fruity smell to them. It calls for 1/2 ounce, but I like hops. I like a little bit of hops in my beer. Just kind of how I am. You know, you adjust it to where you want it to be, but I like to add a little bit more hops to my brew, even though it's not sticking exactly to the recipe. It's just what I like to do. Like the Willamette was supposed to go in at the last 5 minutes of the boil, but I'm ready for this thing to go basically in right now for my flavor. The last 5 minutes or so, 2 to 5 minutes, is basically for flavor. I put the Willamette in for flavor, and the last 2 to 5 minutes is really for aroma more than anything else. And this Cascade's a really good hop for nice aroma in your beer. So here we go. All right. Sorry, I'm a little confusing right now, but a couple beers down while brewing, that'll do it to you. All right. We'll see you when we're moving the wort over to the carboy, which is right there. All right. Now we connect our keg to our wort chiller. I'm going to let this rest for a few more minutes to cool. We're going to let this rest for a few more minutes to cool down. But here's a wort chiller. It's hard to see. It's getting a little dark, but there's a coils of copper wire about 20 feet. It comes down here, and it's going to go right into this carboy. I'm going to add some ice to my wort chiller and also fill it with water. That way you have full contact with the copper and it cools it down. Yeah, I don't know if you can see it, but my wort chiller is completely covered in ice. We're going to go ahead and sanitize that tube right here a little bit more just before I put it in. That way I know everything's going in there. Now remember, you got to have that tube all the way at the bottom of the bottle. If it's not all the way at the bottom of the bottle, you can get some infection. So we're going to try to get that all the way at the bottom of the bottle. Here we go. We got our beer flowing through our wort chiller into our bottle to cool it down. We also, before I did this, I actually added 1.5 gallons of water to the keg. I'm going to add a little bit more here in a second, but right now I'm going to get it started. What I'm trying to do here is get the wort down to about 70 degrees. Wort chiller is the best way to do that, but you can see how simple it is. They also make wort chillers you can actually stick in the keg, but I seem to find this pretty effective. As the wort flows through, it cools down, and I can feel the line, and it's definitely cool. If you want it to get cooler, come up to your valve and just slow your wort down just a little bit. That way it flows nice and slow, and I'm going to because it's not getting as cool as I want it to be. It's pretty close though. We're going to slow it down just a little bit just to see if we can get it a little bit cooler. And it is. I'm going to go just a little bit slower. Almost shut down. It's going to take some time, but better to take the time and let it cool down. That way you can pitch your yeast pretty quickly. So we're coming to the end. Almost there. As you can tell, it's filling up pretty slow. I'm going to see how that feels. Yeah, that's a lot better. Nice and cool. Coming through. And it's filling up. As you can tell, I think it's going to get close enough. You can see it's still flowing pretty good. So, and when we get done here, you'll see this thing filled up. I've got 5. I added another gallon, or actually 3/4 of a gallon, to get me 5¼ gallons of beer. Which is, this is a 6-gallon carboy, and should be able to hold all that. We're going to have to do a little bit of mess around with the keg because the spout is a little high, but we'll get it done. Alright, my wort's at 71 degrees. I've sanitized my double bubbler. I put sanitizing water in the bubbler. Some people use vodka, but I like to use the sanitizing solution. That way it won't get contaminated. I just kind of set it on there right now. I'm going to get my yeast. I've already sprayed my bag. The yeast is 1056 American Ale yeast. I've already slammed it about 2 hours ago. I've also sanitized the bag itself, thereby avoiding contamination. Right now, contamination is your killer right now until this thing starts brewing. Once it starts brewing, it's usually not a problem, but you got to keep an eye on it, make sure everything's clean, make sure everything's sanitized. My hands are sanitized right now. I'm going to go ahead and pour my yeast. I'm at 71 degrees, which is perfect temperature for pouring my yeast. All right, here we go. All right, here we go. We're going to pour the yeast in. Be careful to keep it pretty clean. Get it all in there. Just don't want that little bag of activator to get in there, so. That's all in there. Now yeast is in, the wort's ready. Now all that yeast is sitting on top. What I got to do is give it a really good shake. So what I do is I just kind of shake it around just to get that yeast mixed in with everything so it starts activating pretty good. Now I'm going to have to keep an eye on this only because you could have a real active strain and it may just start overwhelming. It should see that, tomorrow, see if it's bubbling over, or maybe in the morning, especially since it's a ale. But it's not a real high percentage like an IPA where it'd be bubbling like crazy. But what we're going to do is watch it bubble. Also, you can come down here and look and see if you got some activity going on, and I'm sure we will. I got a lot of headspace, so hopefully it won't bubble over and blow my double bubbler right off and hit the ceiling and spread it all over the place. All right, brewing's done. Let's go ahead and cover it up, and we'll be all set. Well, tried to finish my dinner a little bit, and haven't even gotten inside yet. As you can tell, it's already bubbling. Used to be concerned when this one didn't have any water in it, but always happens. Happened on every batch I've ever made, and kind of chalk it up to as long as there's water down in this tube right here and in here, not usually an issue. I like to check my caps, make sure I got them all the way down. Sometimes it kind of lifts, depending on the pressure coming out of the bottle. Usually just at the beginning because they're still a little bit wet from the sanitizer, but it looks like it's already active and going at it, so we're going to have beer in about 7 days. I'll see you then. Well, I didn't show you the hydrometer test, but the recipe called for it to be OG of 1.054. I was right on the money. It's 1.054 at 60 degrees. Might be a little bit more because I think it was around 70 degrees, so add 1. So 1.055. So that's pretty close. We'll see what it is in 7 days.